Hey everybody, welcome on into Clay Shares Live at 5. I'm Jessica Putnam-Phillips, and tonight we are going to be making mugs with the Mug Plug from Black Squirrel Creations, and I have a bonus for you all. We're going to make a mug with this, and all the mugs you see here in front of me were made with this exact one. Well, the bonus is going to be the teacup. If we get this done in time tonight, guess what? You get to see me make a teacup with it. I do already have a hand-built teacup class. Actually, I have a couple of them, along with a wheel-throwing teacup class and saucer that match, so you can check that out. But this right here is from a class I think I did last year before, and carry over at Black Squirrel Creations made this. It's the TCA that it won't fit now because it's been bisque fired, but you know, we're going to do it together, and this right here has a template that comes with the class. So if you want the template, it's here. So if you go to the class, premium member, you'll see under the class the link to get the template. You click the link, it'll take you to ClayShare Prime, and you can get it there. If you're not a member of ClayShare, sign up so you can get yourself your template, and you can make cute little teacups. Just a little bit of self-promotion on this amazing teacup class, because, you know, I'm taking it over here. This, we built the body of the teacup. We put this super fancy frilly foot on it. We did a 3-part handle, 1, 2, 3. I know, that it turned out really awesome. I have another one that's done, but it has been claimed and it's off on its new home. So I'll get that one glazed and share it with you guys soon as I can. All right, I am being had some requests to be on Instagram for my live at 5. You know, usually I don't, because I'm already on YouTube and I'm on ClayShare and on my personal page. There's a lot. So I wasn't doing Instagram, but I felt bad for all the folks over there at Instagram. So tonight I'm going to do Instagram live. So, it's happening. All right, I'm going to see your comments, see what y'all say, and we're going to do this. Oh, by the way, Black Squirrel Creations is going to be part of ClayShareCon. That's February 19th through the 22nd. If you don't know about that, well, you can go to claysharecon.com. You can also watch the last 5 years of ClayShareCon. Yeah, this is the 6th. You can go watch 5 other free online clay conferences. It's the biggest, largest, most viewed online clay conference. And I know that because we have numbers to back that up. The analytics don't lie. So check out last year's. But Mug Pluggs is going to be part of ClayShareCon, which is starting in a few weeks. But they have 25% off right now with no code. You just go to their website, mugplug.com, and you get your 25% off. Okay, let's do some stuff. Let's make some things, because I got lots to do, lots to make, and I want to share it with you all. This Harvest Tankard class right here, we did a demo with the Mug Pluggs. You can learn how to make this one right here if you go watch Harvest Tankard. Go watch that. We did cute little mugs. I don't know what I called this class, but maybe soup mugs. But again, I used the Mug Plug for this. And remember, everybody, this Harvest Tankard, this super cute cherry mug that's still drying, and the cute little soup one was all done with the 314. And if you're going to get a Mug Plug, this is the one. Get this one. They're all great, but if you're just going to get one, you get that one, because that's the most, in my mind, versatile. All right, so here's one I did with a hollow handle. I have a lot of hollow handle classes on ClayShare. If you want to make hollow handles, a couple different ways to do so. One of the first classes that I ever did for ClayShare was at class number 38, I believe. Was it class number 38 for ClayShare, everybody? Back, I don't know, 8 years ago. It was with a hollow-handled teacup that's hand-built. And it's a great class, a great beginner class. Not as fancy as the teacup I just showed, but pretty awesome. I'm going to cover this with plastic while I do the demo, because I don't want this to dry out too much. I have been trying some new clays, and I've been using Tucker's Bright White. And I found out that Tucker's Bright White is very forgiving when you first roll it out and make pots with it. But if you let that clay sit flat and stiffen up at all, then try to make a mug with it, that clay wants to go back to flat. It is not forgiving once it's started to dry on you. So if you're going to use that clay, use it. Don't let it set up till it starts to stiffen, or it will crack on you when you try to make your round forms. Because guess what? Guess what, everybody? I have a couple surface cracks that are tension cracks because this round mug is trying to flatten itself back out. I'm not going to let it because I'm going to keep it drying nice and slow. So we're going to wrap it with plastic. And I'm not even joking. We're wrapping this up. I won't wrap it quite so much. I'm going to put it on the shelf and won't have it quite so wrapped. But right now, oh yeah, it's getting wrapped. All right. So we'll set that to the side so it's not in the way and we don't have to worry about it cracking. And let's go ahead and get our clay and everything, and we'll make a mug. This will be just a simple mug making tutorial. You know, I do these live at 5s as a way to introduce everybody to ClayShare and what I do. For those of you who do not know me, I have my Master's of Fine Arts. I was a college professor for many years. I have been making pottery for, we won't even say, but actually we'll say 25 years, but you can add 10 more onto that because I've been making it basically forever. So I've got a little bit of experience, and I know how hard it is when you're starting out looking for educational resources. When I started pottery back in the Stone Age, you know, we didn't have this thing called the internet. You could not look up videos and learn how to make pottery. But now we do, and that is one of the reasons why I started ClayShare, is because I wanted a place that I could share my love of making pottery and what I know and teach everybody, and I do mean everybody can learn to make pottery. And that is what led to the creation of ClayShare. That and my college downsized and got rid of the clay program. So I was like, oh, I got no job now. What am I going to do? Maybe I'll teach some people how to make pottery online. And guess what? 8 years later, it worked, right? Okay, so I've got some clay here. This is that Tucker's bright white, but you could use any clay you want. It really doesn't matter. And I'm going to cut a little chunk off just to make it a bit easier to work with. And I'll share my template with you in just a minute, so just hold on a second. I'm going to grab another board so that I can move this. And you know, there's a ton of studio work boards out there. This one here is one from GR Pottery Forms that I have right here, this guy. And I like it because it's really easy to work with and lightweight, but I don't like to leave my wet clay stored on it because sometimes little fibers from the boards will come off. So what I do is, as you might notice, it's completely wrapped plastic behind it, and on top of it, my slab stays nice and moist and flexible and ready to go whenever I need to use it. All right, this, on the other hand, is a, oh wow, I would say this is a 3/4 inch piece of plywood. It's pretty thick. And this is just from my local home supply store. Really great plywood that I have a tutorial on making wearboards. I think Kevin did that one. Yeah, he says, he did that one. So Carrie has a website and an Etsy shop. So you could check them out both places. You're so happy I started ClayShare. Oh my gosh. You guys are so funny because you were why I started ClayShare. So I was on Periscope for many years. You know, I've been around, and I would do a broadcast and 40,000 people within 5 minutes would be watching. And I'm like, how can 40,000 people want to watch some lady in her Vermont barn make pottery? But you did, and you stayed. And when I started ClayShare, you found me, you came, you joined by the hundreds, by the thousands. And I have to say, I love our amazing clay community. There's no people like clay people. They're the best people. All right, so I just smoothed this slab out. This was rolled out to 3/8 of an inch thick. And it does have a little texture from the canvas. And weirdly enough, this clay, if you look at it, do you see these little streaks? There's streaks of brown in there. But the funny thing is, it burns away. Like, I don't know what it is. I thought it was iron oxide, but if it was iron oxide on a white clay, it would stick, like it would stay, but it doesn't. All right, so we've smoothed this out. I'm using a Cheryl Mud Tools rib. This is a number 3 yellow rib. When I was teaching at the college, one of my requirements, well, I didn't require, but I encouraged my students to buy this. This was like the tool you bring to class. You get your basic pottery toolkit and you get this, because this right here, this is the best. And if you're going to get a second one, you get a number 1 red rib. That's your second red rib from Mud Tools. Okay, so how big do we want to make our mug? Well, you decide. So this right here, that's 5.5 inches tall. That makes this tankard right here. That's pretty big, right? That's nice. If you want to make the little guy, that cherry one, I used a 4-inch. So here's your difference. And then this one was a 3.5-inch tall, but the diameter is the same. And this is where I get to share my template. So you'll see that it is just a 5.5-inch by 11.25 inch rectangle. And that's allowing for your clay to be 1/4 of an inch thick. So I rolled it out to 3/8 of an inch thick. I smoothed it down. We're going to add texture, and that will get us to about 1/4 of an inch. If your clay is thicker, then you need to make your slab a little longer. So 11.25 won't work. You'll need like 11.5. If you make it thinner, you can go with 11 inches. So it all depends on the thickness. You'll want to, make a template for you. Like how thick you make your slabs, you need to make one for you. All right. I'm going to make it out of the cherries because I'm in love with them. So why not? So this is the cherry mini roller that I just did. And it's out on ClayShare Market. I do have a 7-inch and a 12-inch that will be coming later this week. But I've been going back and forth with the size of my cherries. And that is that's a major thing, apparently, in my life. So we're just going to roll this in the clay. And they come on handles. We put them on handles, but I don't like to roll with a handle. See, they come with handle like this. The star one has handles. But I don't like to use the handle. I like to roll with I like just a hand roller. Because I could also put this on the wheel and roll it up against my clay. That's a whole nother thing, isn't it? We're not going to do that tonight. All right, so now I've got my texture. Let's turn our slab so I can work with it. I like to roll away from me because it's easier than trying to roll sideways. Like just rolling sideways doesn't really work. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to start on this side. I'm going to line up this template. So I have about, I don't know, let's measure. I don't have to do the abouts. I can just tell you. Centimeter, folks, we have 1 centimeter above the pattern. So where the pattern stops, I'm aligning the template so that there will not be any texture up there. It'll just be a nice smooth top. Inch people, we are at, it's a little more than 1/4, a little bit more than 1/4. You figure out your conversion. I can only tell you the centimeter. All right, let's go ahead and cut the top. I'm just holding my knife straight up and down. If you want more in-depth clay instruction, I have it for you. I'm doing this tonight, just a fun little tutorial. Plus, if we get this one done, we can make a teacup. All right, here's our slab for our body. And the clay is very soft, very flexible. And then I'm going to take, and let's go ahead and quickly make our handle right now. Well, I'm thinking about it. So I'm just going to wedge this clay up. This right here I'm saving for the class later for prime time. Let's put this over here. That's where we're making single fire Valentine charms, or any charm you would like. It doesn't have to be Valentine's only. All right, so I'm going to quickly pull a handle. You just took all your Valentine's projects out of the kiln this morning, although you might have to make some single fire pendants. Susan, all right, here's the thing. I made wet clay Monday, 2 days ago, and then glazed and fired them yesterday, and here they are. These were wet clay Monday. These were not little ceramics. No, hold on, I'm gonna turn that off. I can't believe that someone, why do people always call, even though I put on Do Not Disturb? These were wet clay Monday. Today, they're done. Completely glazed, completely fired. I could put luster and put them back in the kiln, but we're gonna do that next. And you know me, I don't single fire, except apparently I do. All right, let's go ahead and pull a handle quickly. So I've got my carrot shape, and I have a class, it's like 1, 2, 3, pull a handle. It's not called that. I think it's pulling a handle is what it's called. But it is 1, my thumb pull, my scissor pull, my U pull. This is not patented, although it's what I call it. There's no pending. It just is what it is. And it's how I pull a handle really quickly, easy. Anybody can do it. People who hate to pull handles, I can change your mind. Maybe. I'll try. All right, so we got our handle pulled. We're going to let that sit up over here and dry for the, I don't know, however long it takes for us to make this mug. It won't take long. Sometimes you like doing single firing. I gotta tell you, single firing is scary for big things. Little things, I think it's peachy keen, but for big things, it gets scary because when you have handles and stuff and you glaze bone dry clay, it could warp on you. All right, so my slab is very, very wet. I'm gonna go ahead and round over my rim. I'm gonna flip it over and we'll get the back side too. So that's the top. So that'll be nice, right? We can finish it more later, but it will be a nice rounded rim instead of this blocky, chunky rim that will be uncomfortable and unpleasant to put our lips on. Oh, great question. What material do I use for my templates? This is craft foam, just regular old, inexpensive craft foam that you can get from any craft supply store. Even Walmart carries this, and it comes in sheets that are 9 inches by 12 inches so that you can make all kinds of shapes. And I can even put it in my Cricut, and if you have a Cricut or a Silhouette or another die cutting machine, and you can cut out. When we do templates, or at least most recently, last few years, when we do templates that are like this, you have a paper version you could print out on your printer, or you have a file that you can use through your Cricut or your die cutter, and it will cut it for you. So you don't have to sit there with scissors. Even my fabulous teacup handle is available in both versions. All right, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to take my slab. Now it's a little wet on the top. So let's take some cornstarch. You should have some cornstarch in your studio. It's very handy. And this is just an inexpensive makeup brush. My mom got me. Thank you, Mom. Because she saw me using really nice brushes, and I think she was like, no, you shouldn't do that. All right, Mugg Plug is made of wood, which is really nice because it's a non-stick material, but sometimes even wood needs a little help, so I like to brush a little cornstarch on it. Now, once you use these for a little while, the dry clay and everything that gets on it, you won't need to use the cornstarch anymore, but you can if you'd like to. So I'm going to take and drape my slab onto my Mugg Plug. Now, there's a couple ways of doing this. You could just make your cylinder first and then put your Mugg Plug in it, and that works. Or you can wrap it up. Now, I made my slab a little bit thinner, and because I did that, I have a little overlap, which is fine. Overlap's not a problem because I can go in and I can trim it off. It's better to have too much clay than not enough. If you don't have enough clay, you're going to end up with a gap and then you can't use it. So we have a little more than we need. So let's go ahead and trim just a bit off. So I'm just going to hold my knife at an angle and cut. Actually, let's cut through both layers. My clay is so wet that it stretched a lot. Thus, my slab stretched. All right, now we're going to slip and score. Slip and score. And then I'm just going to press. And you could turn this like this. And just roll your finger across. If you're worried about it sticking, you can give it a little twist, pop it out, just check, make sure it releases nicely. If you have any moisture in here along your seam line, sometimes it likes to try to stick there, but you put it back in, and then you shape it again, and you're like, oh, we're good. Whew, no harm, no foul, all good there. Let's pull that out. Now I'm going to go ahead and seal the seam on the inside. You can see through the, I don't think you folks can see on Instagram, but on a clay share you probably can see. So I'm just going to take this rib, my red rib, and I'm going to use that to smooth my seam on the inside. I'll flip it over. My clay is so soft. So here's my suggestion to you all. I just rolled this clay out right before we did the broadcast, so it didn't have time to sit up like I normally would let it sit. So my suggestion to you all watching is, if you're using a clay and you know it's a really soft clay like this is, give yourself 15-20 minutes of the clay sitting so that when you go to use it, it won't be so wet. All right. Now, this works perfectly with a 4-inch circle. And I happen to have this set that I've had for ages. And here's my 4-inch circle. Attico, I think is who I got that from on Amazon. But any baking supply, actually, no, maybe I got this from Party City in person. I can't remember. But I do believe they have them on Amazon. So wherever you buy your supplies, you know. What I like about this, because they are basically biscuit cutters, you have this nice scallop side and the straight edge side. And sometimes I use the scallop side because I can make fancy edges on my mug toppers or my flower frogs or any of those things. So there's our bottom, and this is actually going to be the bottom. I'm going to turn it over. And then we'll move my little cylinder. And I don't think there's one way to use these mug plugs. I think you use them however you want. If you like wrapping your slab around the form and making your mug that way, you do that. If you like making your cylinder and then putting the form into your cylinder, you do that. So I slipped and scored my bottom edge, and then let me flip this over. So soft, clay, so soft. It's not what you want necessarily. It's not like your cat, you know, you want your cat to be soft. You don't necessarily want your clay to be soft. Slipping and scoring the edge here. And it's kind of out of its circle just a bit, but that's okay. When I put it on this circle, it'll go back to shape. So you just put this on here, approximately centering it, and then you just press out. I'm gonna take off my watch. Just press out from the inside and just kind of let it go around, just like that. And now your bottom will be a perfect circle. Very nice, right? So you got that part done. Let's go ahead and clean up the outside. I'm going to take my mud tool and just let that ride along. A little bit of clay builds up on it. You wipe it clean. Easy. And if you get a little line of clay there, you just wipe it with the sponge and that takes care of that too. Now I like an undercut here. I feel like it lifts the pot, well it does, it lifts the pot visually off the table. And you can use so many things to clean that up. I know that there's wooden clay knives that I like to use. This one right here, which is the JA22 from Kemper. And I'm so glad Laguna bought Kemper. And we can all still get our amazing Kemper tools. So this is a nice one you can get from Kemper. Easy to work with. I got this new one from Diamond Core Tools. It's the SC4. And this does a little bit sharper of a cut. So depending on what kind of undercut you want, you can get it. The other neat thing about the SC4 is it has a little potter's thumb built in. So you can press that against the side too, and it can create a little bit of an inward curve for you. And then again, go back with a sponge or your finger and clean up any marks that are in there. And then for the edge, I've got a 1/4 inch synthetic craft brush. This is just a little flat brush. And it dries out in between uses, so I get it wet, wipe it clean with my sponge, and now I'm just going to smooth the seam on the inside. We don't have to add a joining coil or anything because we did all of that work on the outside of the mug. We don't have to worry about that. Let's take care of that. And then let's see, how's our seam? Our seam's looking okay, but we could do a little more. Do a little more. Clean that up a bit more. All right, now I want to put my mug plug back in there. And because it's a little damp down in the bottom, I'm going to put a little extra cornstarch and up the side. Now when you do this, what's going to happen? Do you guys know physics? You know what's going to happen? There's going to be like a cushion of air in here. And if it's too tight, that cushion of air will prevent me from putting it in. But we can just wiggle it a bit and that'll let the air escape and it won't resist. And then you can just press this up against the side. So if you want a nice straight up and down mug, you can do it. Now release and wiggle a little bit once in a while just to make sure that none of the slip that you've put in there has stuck. Release, wiggle. And you're not going to leave this in here. If you left this in here, what would happen? Your clay would shrink, because that's what happens when clay dries, and your pot would crack around it. Now look at that. We have a perfect circle. It looks great. So we're going to let this set up for a little bit. I want to go in and clean this up right here. Let this set up, and we'll let our handle set up, and we'll come back in a minute and we'll put the handle on, but let's move on to making our teacup body, okay? So let's put this to the side. We'll be back for you in a minute. We want to try to get this teacup done, right? I want to do the teacup. Who doesn't want a teacup? I suppose people that don't drink tea, but I'll tell you a secret. You can drink coffee out of a teacup. Don't tell, but you can. So, just letting you know. All right, I'm gonna go grab my clay. Actually, let me bring, aha! I'll bring this over here. All right, so I have the teacup template. You can get that with the teacup class on ClayShare. And the teacup itself isn't huge. It's, you know, it's a teacup size, right? It's teacup size, like, you know, teacup. I thought it was funny. It's a teacup pot, like people have teacup dogs. I have a teacup pot. It's the same clay that I rolled out earlier that I'm working with. If you don't have a slab roller, it's not even a big deal. You can roll out a slab yourself, and if you don't know how, all you need is a rolling pin and a flat surface. And I have quite a few little demos teaching you how to roll out a flat surface. It's super easy to do. You know, I don't know if you're new to pottery and you're out there and you're like, I don't have a studio, so I can't make pots. But here's the deal. If you have a flat surface and a rolling pin, get yourself some clay because you can make pots, and that's all you need. You don't have a kiln? Okay, well, you can find a local kiln that will fire your pots. Or you know what? We're giving away a kiln during ClayShareCon, and it's a kiln that'll just plug into your household outlet. So you might win that kiln, and then you don't have to worry at all about silly things like not having a kiln, because you'll have one. Smooth this out. That looks good. We'll use this side to roll. But when I started, I didn't have a kiln either. But don't let that stop you. Don't let things like that hold you back from doing something you've always wanted to try. So teacup. And I'm going to go ahead and just draw a little line. I'm going to make it pretty quick. And that's going to be the line that I roll my texture on. And I have got this super cute little butterflies rolling pin that we're going to use. And although it's a rolling pin we usually roll straight with, we can curve it around and roll in a curve, just like I did. Some of your butterflies get a little interesting, right? There's a little movement happening. I don't think it's a problem. It just changes it a little bit. All that matters to me is that I have butterflies on my template. So as long as that happens, I'm good. So you have 3 of the Mugg Pluggs, including the Teacup one and their rounder. They're very handy. There's a lot of really great tools out there for making pottery. And during ClayShareCon, we're going to have a lot of people sharing their tools and the way to use them. We're going to have a lot of demos. A lot of really cool things are going to be made. Okay, so here we have, and I didn't leave that top bit bare. You know, I went ahead and I added texture all the way to the edge, but don't let that worry you, because you can just take a piece of plastic. Let's see if I can get here's a little piece I just tore off my sheet of plastic that I'm drying my clay under. And you just use this plastic. You could use your sponge too, but if you're trying to not put more water, like I'm trying to not put more water on this already wet clay, this is a great way to round over your lip. All right, so that's going to be the top. And let's go ahead and slip and score our sides. And we're going to actually make our shape first. And then we're going to put it on the teacup Mugg Plugg. So we'll do our overlap. Press it in. Roll up our seam, smooth that over. We're going to get it done. We're going to get a teacup done, and we're going to do, I'm so impressed with all of us. We're going to do all of this tonight. Let's flip this over. So the reason the Mugg Plugg is really handy for the teacup is because we have this delicate form, and it can be really difficult sometimes to prevent them from warping. So if you use a form like this, or former, depending on where you are. Sometimes people call them formers, things that you use for forming. Put our cornstarch on there, liberally cornstarch it. We'll go ahead and put this in here. And then we can shape it. Now, my teacup is not a big one, so you could make it bigger if you want. I'm just going to stretch this bottom a little bit. And press it in. Let's check and make sure we can release it when we want to. We can. And the great thing about templates is you can modify them so that they can work for you, meaning you can make them bigger or smaller. So the teacup template that I have, if you find it too small, guess what? you can go into your settings and you can enlarge it. You can scale it up to 110%, 115, 120, whatever you need to do. So you can make it bigger. So now we have a basic teacup shape. Now, oh, let's flip it back over so I can show you. Figure out the size of the bottom. So your bottom can vary from 2¼ inches up to 3 inches if you stretch your clay. It just depends what you want to do. So what I do is I take these little circles and I'm like, oh, that one's too big. So then I go to the next one down, 2½. Ooh, 2½. It's perfect. So I need a 2½ inch circle for my bottom, which, guess what? I got some clay right here, enough to make a 2½ inch circle. We'll just go ahead. Yeah, we're gonna put the texture on it too. I'm gonna put texture on everything. Ooh, we're gonna pick, oh, those are cute. Like, which batch of butterflies are we gonna use? Let me grab my wear board. These are inserts from Studio Pro Bat's Space Saver bat system. And they are initially were meant for wheel throwing, but I love to use them for hand building because they never warp on me, and they're the perfect size for small plates and mugs. You probably see me using them all the time. And they just store, they're easy to store because they're tiny, and the fact that I just wipe them clean after I'm done, sometimes maybe not. Sometimes maybe I don't wipe them clean, but don't tell. And they're just really a handy little board. And I was talking about wear boards. All right, let's go ahead and slip and score. And you know this is going to go back on the form before we're done. So I'm going to, off to the side here, score the bottom of my teacup. This teacup's not going to be like my class, though. It's not going to have the 3-part handle. It's not going to have the fancy foot. This is not that teacup. This is just a simple hand-built one. So we've got that lined up there. We'll do the same thing with the bottom that we did on the mug. So these are all very basic pottery skills that I'm sharing with you. Very basic slab building. And many people, this is how they make all their pots. Like, this is what they do. This is how they make. And it's a very easy way to work. You don't have to put texture on if you don't want to. You know, sometimes, believe it or not, I make pots that I don't put texture on. I know there was a collective gasp when I said that. What? No, it happens. Sometimes I don't put texture on. All right, let's smooth our seam here. And I can see where, when I was making, I've got a little bit of clay I need to cut off. Sometimes when we're rolling that seam up, sometimes we roll a little more than we mean to. But that's okay. We can clean that up. So this is a small teacup. Again, you can enlarge it and make it bigger, because usually teacups, like traditional teacups, like I made a teapot and I'm going to have a cup of tea, you don't necessarily want it to be this big. I mean, maybe you do. If you do, then this might not be the one you want, or you size it up. All right, I'm putting a ton of cornstarch in here because my seam is very wet. And then I just blew it all over me, so. Let's go ahead and put this on here. Oh, look, butterfly left behind. And now I can still go ahead and get my shape for my teacup. And then we can turn it over, pop out our form. Oh, we'll want to put a handle on here. Let's go ahead, and I think I got enough clay to do this, but let's go ahead and I will show you quickly how to use handheld extruder from Diamond Core Tools. Don't forget my initials. The initials are going to go after I do the handle. I'll put them in because I left my stamp across the room. So, all right, so I just wedged up some clay and now I'm blocking it. Basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. I am smacking the clay till it's in a block. And the length of the block will be the length of my handle. So it's a teacup. Teacups are dainty little things, like me. So I want a dainty little handheld extruder. And Diamond Core Tools happens to have many for me to choose. They have their little extra small. This is the R10. I think that's their koala, I believe. And that is one of my favorites. I often use that. I also love the R9. I don't know, maybe that looks more butterfly-y right there. I don't know. This is a good one too. And I've done demos R8 with all of these in the past. And we had a very good time making handles. So what do you guys think? Does anybody have, does anybody have a preference? R8, 9, or 10? First one I see, you tell me, and I will do it for the handle. You pick. It's choose your own handle time. And if nobody picks, guess what? I'm going to just pick myself. So 3, 2, 1. Anybody? 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 No. No one says? Okay, 9. Okay, got it. That was Pat. Pat, guess what? Pat got the 9. So that's what we're going to use. Mug, full of handheld mug extruders with a handle made with it, and I believe it was probably the 9. I actually think this is not the extra small. I think it's just one of the regulars, the regular ones, the 9. But we're going to use the 9. So let's go ahead and just pull that through the clay. Pop it out, and look at that. So because I wedged the clay up, we have some air bubbles and stuff that were still left in there because I did a quick wedge. You know, usually you have to wedge for 5 minutes to get all the air out. I know you don't want to hear that, but that's how I learned. Must wedge each ball of clay for 5 minutes. I wouldn't make you do that though. So we'll clean this up just by smoothing away all those little bumps, and then they're gone. Nice. So now we have our little handle. We'll shape it. The length is good. Now the great thing about these handheld extruders, when you make a handle, is we don't have to wait as long for it to set up because it's already halfway dry. We're not getting it wet again like we did when we pulled it. So let's go ahead and clean up a little bit. Clean as you go. I have got a couple other things to share with you. So if you want to make a really cute decorative edge on your teacup handle, which you probably want to because it's a teacup and it's fancy, I use this 1 3/4 flower cookie cutter. But Debbie from De La Design Gifts has come out with a little handle cutter right here. So you could use hers, or you could use the flower. And I think I'm going to go with the flower because it's a tiny bit smaller for my handle. But often I will use Debbie's because it's really nice and easy to work with. So clean that up. So we have our little dog paw going there. All right, so we're going to set this handle off to the side. Let that one start drying. Now we can go back to our first mug. And actually, how are we doing there? I want to round over this rim quickly. Usually I let it stiffen up a bit more. We're going to take our sponge, wrap it around the rim. If your clay is really wet, it'll warp it, so maybe wait longer than I did. Yeah, it's a little too soft, but I got stuff, so I can't wait. All right, let's go back to our mug, our beautiful cherry mug that we have going here. And it has sat up longer, so let's see if we can do it with that without it warping, and I think it can. All right, let's grab our handle for that. That's the one we pulled. We'll trim it. We'll use Debbie's cutter for this one. I like to flare out my handles. Cut. Makes a cute little dog paw. And then the back. Debbie will be joining us for Clayshare Con. So I'm pretty excited for that. I think I have 32 different companies joining us. And I don't remember how many demonstrations are happening. Plus, we have videos that have been recorded that are going to be part of Clayshare Con. And you're going to hear me talking a lot about Clayshare Con between now and then, because guess what? That's pretty much what I'm working on nonstop here. All right, slip and score, slip and score. Now we get our, put that back down, we get our mug plug back out and put it in. Remember, the air is going to fight you a bit. Now here's our seam. Let's go ahead and line up our handle. Pull it away, left some slip behind, which is what we wanted. Slip and score, slip and score. Now, line up the top. And I'm just going to press it in. See if I can get the Instagram folks to see a little better. I told you guys that I was going to try not to neglect you, right? Maybe I need to come over a little more. That'd be better? All right, so you can see right here, and I'm pressing it. And then we line it up. Now here's the key when you put your handle on, and a lot of beginners do this. I put my handle on, looks great. I mean, you can intentionally do that, but just take the time when you're putting your handle on, turn it so you are actually looking at it, not the audience, and line it up right so that when the person ends up with the mug, whoever that is, and they look at that handle, look, much better, right? You want it to be lined up, ideally. So then press in, and my handle's on, like Donkey Kong. Look at that. How many people get that reference? That's an old one. So anyhow, cleaning up any slip, and then wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. If it's too wet and sticks, just let it set for a minute. It will eventually release, I promise. But sometimes it likes to stick a little bit. Got to give it a minute, and then you work it out. I have had on occasion where I forgot to cornstarch. I think actually we did that live, didn't we? Where I forgot to, did I cornstarch this before I put it back in? I didn't, did I? So if it's wet in there and you don't cornstarch, guess what happens? Everything sticks. So I've had that happen, and what I did was I cut the mug plug, like I cut the clay off the mug plug. You just make a seam, and then you pull it out, and then you do it all over again. So let's let this set for a minute though, because it shouldn't be sticking. I thought I did good, but I think oh, it's down at the bottom. It's where the handle is. All right, we'll let it be for a sec. But I am not afraid to cut my clay to get it out of a form. Let's go to the teacup and see if we can do that. Now that I know I put cornstarch in. So here is a little warning. Make sure you cornstarch it, because you do not, absolutely do not want it sticking. Or else you have to cut it out, which you can do, but do you really want to? You don't want to. I would like to make this template taller. So right now the size it is fine, but I do think it would work better if it was a taller. cup shape. Let me find my seam. Oh, there it is. Sometimes it's hard to find them. Line it up. Line it up. Slip and score. Just like we did on the other one. You can use the mug plug to press against. All right, before, okay. Woo, making sure it comes out. Line this up. The handle might be a little big, maybe. Maybe could have gone a little daintier. Yeah, it's a beefy teacup handle. I mean, hey, we can also flip it upside down on the mug plug. So it can hang out here, and you can always check, ooh, it comes right out, no problem. But this way, you can have this really nice, elegant handle shape. You let the handle stiffen up a bit. And then we'll flip it over before it's too dry, and we can refine it. All right, so let's see if I can get this out, or if we're going to do surgery. Might have to. Oh yeah, it's so, look, watch, it's like it's breathing. Can you see that? Ooh, 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 ooh. So what do? Don't panic. I'm going to tell you, no matter what, you never panic. Just cut, peel, release, and then slip and score, slip and score. We're going to go ahead and put our mug back together now. Sorry. Sorry, mug. I'm terrible. Yeah, I didn't use cornstarch. So there's your lesson. Use cornstarch. Let's go ahead and seal it. I'm going to put some cornstarch down in there so this doesn't happen again to me. Put this back in because I've definitely changed the shape of my mug. And then we'll press it against. Get back there. Get back there, and then I can use it to fix that seam. And then we pull it out. So this one, because I forgot to use the cornstarch, which is, you know what? You're going to do that at least once. And you will learn best by forgetting to do it. And then you won't forget again. But you'll be like me. Oops, I forgot. So you know what you do? You cut your mug, and you know, you should be able to get your mug out okay. But if you can't, and you destroy one mug, okay, make another, right? Make another. So I've got to smooth this seam right here on the top where I had to make my cut, but that won't happen, hopefully, on yours, because you are going to remember to use cornstarch and not have that problem. Oh, Peggy said 10. Yeah, I didn't see it till after the 9, hon. I'm sorry, but it's all right. So pull slightly out on the sides to get some air into the plug. I just cut it. It's fine. So before you add the handle, can you put it on the wheel and shape the bottom? Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. So you can do anything you want. There's no limitations, right? You can put it on the wheel if you want to shape the bottom. You could make a cylinder with a wheel thrown bottom. Actually, we did that in a class where we did a slab for our sides to get our texture, and then we did a wheel thrown bottom so that we could attach it to it and then belly out and do all the stuff we do when we're wheel throwing. So there are no limitations, there we go, at all to what you can do. It's just up to your imagination. So here we have it. I saved the mug. Oh, I did it. I do have 2 seams on it now. And once this is stiffened up a bit more, I'm going to go in and smooth out the rim and everything. But we can put this back in here. Boop. But I wouldn't leave it hanging out for too long because, again, remember, it will shrink and then crack. So, oh, want to take our other one out? Let's take our other one out. So this one's done. We'll take that off. That's the 314. And that's the one I think is the most useful starting out. And then our little teacup right here, bloop, which we were using to dry our handle. And you see how I'm just kind of cupping the clay into the form? And you can turn it upside down and do that as well, right? Cupping the clay into the form. It's kind of like my corset mug class, a little bit. We use that cupping motion, but that was for an actual mug. So then we have a cute little teacup. So we made the teacup, we made the mug, and we used the mug plugs, and they were really fun to work with. Just don't forget your cornstarch, or you'll be like me and have to cut your piece out, and I don't want you to do that because that was disappointing when that happens. So what clay is this? This is Tucker's Bright White clay. It's very similar to a B-Mix. It is a porcelainous stoneware, although it does behave a lot like a porcelain, but it's not translucent and it's not a true porcelain, but it's a pretty nice bright white clay. And I actually have, I'm not going to share it. I have a piece done with it and I just don't want to share it yet because I got some stuff going on that's a secret. So there we have it. Any other questions before we go? So you hold your mug plug upside down and shake it a couple times. Turning the mug plug, it helps release the clay when it's sticking a bit. Yeah. Yeah, and that's Jill, not Larry. Hi, Jill, not Larry. Could you put a small slit in the bottom join and pull the mug plug? Yeah, you could if you wanted to. Get in there, but it was stuck right at the seam where the handle is, and I couldn't really cut into that area. So, but with a teacup like that, would I also make a saucer? Yeah, and actually I have in the official teacup class, it has a saucer. There's a class, not using the mug plug, that we made a teacup. Oh, like this right here. And it has a saucer that matches, that this actually fits perfectly in, and it like won't move around. It's made for it. So that's a 3-part handle. That is a challenge, I'm going to tell you. If you struggle with handles, you're not quite ready for that, I don't think. But if you want a challenge, a handle challenge, because you got to make 3 parts and join them together into your handle shape, then it has to survive the bisque fire and the glaze fire. So there's your challenge, make a 3-part handle. And that's a much more advanced technique, but those of you looking for a challenge, it's there for you. So give it a try and see how it goes. All right, so next in prime time, I am going to be doing single firing. We're going to be making Valentine charms. And I have a little trick. I have a secret. There's a secret piece of equipment I've got stashed back here that makes it possible. I made these all Monday. And oh, I took them out of the kiln today. So they went from wet clay in the bag on Monday to completely done, glazed, ready to go on Wednesday. So if you have a show this weekend and you want to make something Valentine-y, and you're like, oh, there's just no way, I can't get it done. Well, guess what? You make these tonight or tomorrow morning, and you can have them Friday or Saturday morning. Just telling you, you can do it. And I'm going to show you all how in prime time. All right, Mug Plugs are 25% off on their website, Carrie told me, and there's no code, they just are on sale, and they're going to be joining us during ClayShareCon. They're going to have giveaways, they're going to have promos, they're going to have all kinds of stuff happening, so you'll have to join us for ClayShareCon. Now remember, ClayShareCon is free, that's right, but if you want to enter the giveaways, you got to sign up for our emails, and we'll have more information on that as we get closer to ClayShareCon, which is still a few more weeks away. Thank you, everybody. And I will see all of y'all next Wednesday. I think I'm throwing pots next week. So wheel throwers, rejoice. We're going to throw next week. But my premium members, I'm going to see you in a few minutes because we're making those charms. Thanks for being here, everybody. I'll see y'all next week. But until we meet again, make great pots with a mug plug and don't get it stuck. Bye, everybody.